This regular meeting of the Detroit Lake City Council is called to order, and at this time, I'd like to invite all of you to please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting, which was held on April 12th, 2022. Is there anyone in the audience or any members of the council that wish to make any adjustments to the minutes? I think we did have a change to the minutes, but is that on the consent agenda, Lori? Okay, so we don't need to do a read. Anyone want to make any other changes? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval of the minutes from April 12th, 2022.
So, second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting held April 12th, 2022. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda is before the council, and all items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered separately in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to either add or remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for its approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. I think before we hear from our water carnival admirals, we have a new police officer that's going to be joining us, Ryan Seeger, and I'm going to issue his oath of office. And we have a resolution we're going to pass, so
Would you like me, sir?
then you can go to work.
Want me right in front of the podium, or where do you want me to stand?
Stand right there. If you would raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Ryan Seeger,
I, Ryan Seeger,
promise that I will humbly serve
promise that I will humbly serve
all residents
all residents
with a response to their crisis,
with the response to their crisis,
with compassion, sincerity and concern,
sincerity and concern,
patience, kindness, and respect.
patience, kindness, and respect.
I promise that I will,
I promise that I will,
at all times, conduct myself in a manner
at all times, conduct myself in a manner
that reflects positively on the Detroit Lakes Police Department and the City of Detroit Lakes.
that reflects greatly upon the Detroit Lakes Police Department and the City of Detroit Lakes.
Finally, I promise to follow the policies
Finally, I promise to follow the policies
of the Detroit Lakes Police Department,
of the Detroit Lakes Police Department,
uphold the laws of our state and nation,
uphold the laws of our state and nation,
and the ordinances of the City of Detroit Lakes,
and the ordinances of the City of Detroit Lakes,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
my duties
my duties
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Okay, you're in.
Thank you very much, Shelley. Oh my God, yes, big smile.
So, Ryan, you don't have anybody here to introduce, or
Nope, no families, they're all off doing stuff.
anything else you want to add?
No, I'm just glad to have Ryan aboard, and he'll be working as one of our part-time officers here in town, and we're thankful that he's with us.
Great.
Happy to be here, so thank you all very much.
Thank you. We do have a resolution that Alderman Wenner is going to introduce.
Yes, sir. There's a resolution in our packets declaring the position part-time police officer meets all PERA requirements for the position Ryan Seeger just was sworn into. Public Safety Committee reviewed this, recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to declare the position of part-time police officer approved for Ryan Seeger. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, Ryan, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. So now I'll go back to Drew and Casey, who are the new co-admirals of the Water Carnival, and they want to appear before the council with all the requests for the 2022 Water Carnival. So if you guys want to come up to the podium. So it's Casey Fetzer and Drew Lucine, right?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome.
Well, we're honored this year to come before you guys and ask for, well, permission to carry out the festivities of years prior to us on the Water Carnival. Ahead, we kind of laid out similar profiles. The only thing we are looking to add, which is something we want to talk to you guys about, we are carry on with the traditionals, but we are looking to add a sailboat regatta. Casey can tell a little bit more about that. Apologize about not asking last month, but we heard about some road construction. We were a little leery of how that was going to affect us, but no, it's not going to. So as for prior years, routes that everything we've ever used is almost going to be identical. But the only thing we are going to have to add is looks like some water buoys for our regatta, if that's approved. We have 2 huge bands. We're doing an 80s rock band on Friday, Hairball, and we're doing Eddie Montgomery on Saturday. Those are going to be the huge additions, kind of splitting it up instead of just having one on each.
It should be a good event. Sorry, this is Chris and I were going through these. So we will have, like Drew said, we're going to have the 10 days of all of the Water Carnival festivities. So basically, it's going to be the kickoff party down at the street dance. So it's going to be in front of Lakeside, and then we'll have the demo derby, of course, over at the county fairgrounds. And then we will have water fights. That's going to be at the pavilion, the parking lot in there on the Wednesday night. Bingo again. And the only really big event that's going to be new is going to be the regatta. We do have some smaller things that are going to be added throughout this year. We
have the bearded axe throwing competition out of Fargo. It's a company out of Fargo. They actually go around to all county fairs, and they actually came to our Water Carnival last year and talked to a couple people, and they asked if they could come down. It's a fully inclusive trailer. They come down. It's anybody who's never been up there. They got a huge wall to throw kind of either axe or daggers. They kind of a fun little setup on there. It's a huge pull-behind trailer, all included, so they're covering everything on there. Just something new to the area they want to kind of branch out to. We are kind of changing up our tug of war. We're kind of bringing back kind of a strongman competition. Years past, it's kind of dwindled down numbers, so we're going to have, you can do a tug of war contest if we don't have enough people. We're going to do like an arm wrestling competition if you wanted to break it up, if you didn't have a whole crew. Kind of possibility of pulling the trolley again. There was here, anybody that's obviously open to it, we're going to keep that open on there. As for the other big events, we are still teaming with Leighton Broadcasting for the Extreme Tippy Cup. They kind of took it over this year, more of initiation of signing up, which is our event. They're running it though, so. Other than that, we kind of looking forward to you guys. If there's anything you need from us particularly, we want to try to find out anything you need from us, how we can help out, make this run smoothly.
The sailboat thing, is that something that requires any city facilities or?
It would just require us to get some buoys, I think 3 buoys put out in the lake. We're thinking about the Big Detroit, because sailboats are gonna have a hard time getting through the sandbar area, so it would be more in the Holiday Inn. We're trying to talk with them and see if they'll be kind of that point place for our regatta.
So the buoys, could that be something the city could work with Sean or Kelsey? Or is that outside of our?
We probably have buoys we can provide. We don't really have a way to place them, if you can find someone to place them.
We'd have the opportunity to have boats. We have a couple people that could do that.
That'd be-
Sean knows where they're at?
The buoys?
Yeah.
Yes, I know where the buoys are at.
So why don't you get a hold of Sean?
Okay, Sean.
Get a hold of Sean when you need the buoys. And how about that other thing, Madeline, that we talked about, the parking?
You mean the kickoff party
Yeah.
at this point, Westlake Drive is, we're having some issues with closing Westlake Drive for anything except the parade, so we'd like you to consider moving that kickoff party to one of the side streets and not block off Westlake Drive, simply because Willow's gonna be shut down and part of Westlake Drive's gonna be shut down. And so we don't really wanna shut down Westlake Drive that night.
Okay.
So maybe you can work with Sean and see what street would be a good one. We were thinking like Minnesota right there.
Definitely. Thank you.
I know, just from my seat, Mayor, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
being a past admiral, and I know Natalie is as well, there's a huge commitment and a huge time that goes into this from not only yourself, but also the other JC members, so thank you for doing that. Also, if there are media in the room and with other business owners here, if they do have employees that are looking to get them involved with the JCs, would they contact yourselves, or who would they reach out to?
Absolutely. We, both Casey and I actually carry membership packets. We can talk in detail. If there's any other questions, we can actually get them in touch with our members either, but we've actually both been carrying membership packets, being as we've gone out to different businesses and looking for that too. I know Casey works at Lake Shirts. She's actually been talking to them too about it in the HR department. We've actually talked to, is it Leighton Broadcasting, about doing a membership boost too, just to try to keep members. As you guys know, it's
Great.
a lot of moving around, and
Oh, yeah.
granted, with your guys' help, even giving us barricades, it's kind of fun 24/7 trying to get them moved, set up and everything, so, especially with all the chaos that it sounds like is coming, all the road construction, we want to try to keep everything moving smoothly, so.
Any further questions from the council?
I would just like to say, thanks for bringing Hairball back.
It's gonna be a fun time.
Well, it's an overall great event for the city, and we appreciate all your work. So at this time, Madeline, we should approve the liquor licenses, the permits, street closures, et cetera.
Yep. Public Works moves to approve the temporary on-sale intoxicating liquor licenses, the 3.2 malt liquor licenses, 2 parade permits, facility and ground usage of the city park, pavilion, and the city beach, appropriate street closures and extended curfews as per the JC request.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve all the items that Madeline outlined for the,
Water Carnival?
for the Water Carnival, but I was trying to see what year this is. Is this the
It's the 86.
86th Northwest Water Carnival? Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you again for coming, and we look forward to it.
Thank you.
So without objection, can we jump to item 9B, Matt?
Yes, sir. Item 9B is a consideration to sponsorship of the Great Race Dinner. The Great Race, Rick, I'm going to take a swing at this, and please fill in the holes. The Great Race is a antique automobile race that starts in Rhode Island and ends in Fargo, North Dakota. They are stopping in Detroit Lakes for an evening. This is the last timed event stop they will meet at. The Mooring Rotary is putting together a meal and dinner for them. They've asked the liquor board for a sponsorship to help cover this. In turn, we get some advertising dollars out of this. There was a motion for $500 at the Liquor and Gambling for this, and I would so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to donate $500 to the Great Race Dinner, and that's money that'll be deemed to be used for advertising.
Correct.
Discussion on the motion. Anything you want to add, Rick?
No, it's gonna be like a one-time, once-in-a-lifetime event in Detroit Lakes. It's a big deal. This is the 39th year of the Great Race. There's gonna be 135 antique and collectible cars and trucks from all over the world involved with this race. And it's gonna be a big deal. There's gonna be a lot of people in town, so we appreciate your help on doing this. It's just another way that we can get Detroit Lakes on the map.
And Rick, the other request was on the consent agenda, right, Matt?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
So that was good to go. So
Yes, sir.
all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. And I'm going to do one more before we open it up for the public hearing. I'd like to move to item 7B, which has to do with the food pantry. Natalie?
Yeah, so I'm gonna call on Dale Story and Steve Schumacher, who presented to us earlier today at the Finance Committee, and they're going to provide a background on the food pantry and their current updates and their fundraising goals.
Brad's with us, too. These are.
Oh, and Brad Carlson too is now adding
Yeah, the food pantry, I don't know where you want to go with this, but it's, we're looking to build a new building. And our building we have is, we've actually probably outgrown it. And we need to get a new building. We've been working on this probably for 3 years or more, looking at different properties. Then it came down to that our best bet is to build a new one where we could get it to where we can serve our customers better. We can open it up for them to shop for their own groceries if they want to come in and pick out their groceries. And also it's going to be better for our volunteers who are all retiring and elderly, that we won't have to be using double-decker stacking to lift stuff up. It will be better in that situation. We've looked around, and right now the budget we have set is about $950,000. And about 2 weeks ago, the county allocated $250,000 for us. We've been visiting with the city off and on, and our request from the city is $250,000. We also are now in the process of working with White Earth. We were approached through John Steffelwood, chairman of the school board, knew the Alan Roy, and he set up a meeting for us. So we just met with their tribal council a couple weeks ago, and we're requesting money from them also to fill in a gap that we have. We also have raised money quietly on our own, and we're sitting around 200 and some thousand or so. So we're doing that also, and we're also looking into different grants that we have done. So our request here tonight, we met with the finance committee earlier, is to have the city council approve the $250,000 for us.
Okay.
Is there any questions?
Any questions from the council? Okay, Natalie, so we have a,
Yep, so the finance committee did review this, and the funds are earmarked for that $250,000 request. So I motion to the council for the consideration to the approval of the city contributing $250,000 to the food pantry for their new building.
Second.
motion's been made and seconded to approve $250,000 for the new food pantry building. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. So thank you, guys. We appreciate all your efforts, and we look forward to a new building.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So at this time, I'm going to adjourn the regular meeting and call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the Campbell Avenue and Linden Lane Street and utility reconstruction project. And so at this time, I'm going to call on our city engineer, John Pratt, to give everyone an overview of the project. John?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Mayor and Council, this is a public hearing for the street utility improvements for Campbell Avenue. We went through a similar presentation back in January when we submitted some of the funding applications. But we're here tonight to go round two in an effort to try to provide some communication to property owners about the upcoming street project. So again, what is the proposed street utility reconstruction project for Campbell and Linden, the full length of both of those streets? The why is, we're here to get input from public and property owners. We're pretty early in the process right now. Answer questions, things of that nature. And then, of course, it is a requirement of state statute to do a public improvement hearing like this whenever we're using special assessments to fund a portion of the project. So we'll go through the existing conditions and the need and the overview of the improvements, estimated costs, schedule, and then have an opportunity for comments and questions towards the end of it. So again, I kind of touched on this. The project is, generally speaking, Campbell Avenue and Linden Lane. There is some work that would happen in the rear yards along Campbell Avenue, potentially, as well as some side yard areas where we have some storm sewer and some sanitary sewer running along the rear lots of Willow going to the wastewater treatment plant. As far as the need, I guess broadly speaking, this is some of the older infrastructure that we have in town, just generally speaking. It's very, very old. We've had a lot of difficulty with it in terms of breaks. The sewer that is over there right now ranges from 8-inch to 21-inch, either VCP or RCP pipe, so it's a concrete or a clay tile pipe. We're speculating, we don't have great records, quite frankly, but somewhere in the area of about 90 years old. So we've gotten our money's worth out of it. The pipe's in poor condition. We've had frequent failures, repairs that have to be done, a lot of root intrusion, cracks, things like that. And then there's also what we call a trunk line that's in the rear yard of the Campbell Avenue properties, and that is commonly referred to as the Swift line. It was installed in the 60s or early 70s in response to sewage flow from the Swift Eckrich turkey plant. And so that line in itself handles probably about 70% of the influent to the wastewater plant. So it's a very, very critical line as far as our overall collection system goes. Water main, a little more basic, I guess. It's just a 6-inch cast iron pipe. It's in poor condition. Again, frequent failures. Stormwater, really not as many specific issues here, other than there's kind of a lack of inlets. So I would suspect during some heavy rains that we see some short-term and localized flooding over there. There's just not a lot of inlets bringing that into the storm sewer system. That's all discharged to the wetland kind of behind Campbell Avenue, and there's no existing treatment prior to that discharge. The street, generally speaking, these are considered low-volume streets. There's not a ton of traffic on them. They're primarily there to service the residential neighborhood, 36 to 40 feet wide, tough shape, a lot of cracking, a lot of potholes, a lot of patches from all the utility repairs. I really don't know the age of them. Just by looking at it, I would say we're probably at least into that 40-year mark, if not more. And right now, there is no sidewalks in the project area. So what are we proposing to do? Basically replace all the sanitary sewer replacement, get rid of the old VCP mains and replace them with 8-inch and up to 30-inch PVC mains in most locations. There are some side lot areas, like I mentioned, that I don't know that we'll be able to get a backhoe in there, so we'll have to do those through like a lining process. That trunk line that's behind the houses on Campbell Avenue, we're going to relocate that up into Campbell Avenue itself, so it's a little more accessible. A line like that we want to be able to get at easily if we had to. We might leave that old line in place just for some redundancy if we ever had to move the flow around for any sort of maintenance. Water, replace the 6-inch cast iron mains with some 8-inch PVC mains, new hydrants, new valves, pretty standard process. Service laterals, what we do on these projects is we replace the service laterals from the sewer main or the water main up to the edge of the property, and then we stop. And any replacement from the property line into the house would be the responsibility of the property owner. It's not required, but it's certainly something to maybe evaluate as part of that project. Chances are those lines are also old. Storm sewer, we'll have to replace most of the storm sewer that is in the project area simply because it's shallower, and in order for us to replace the water and sewer, we generally got to remove that storm sewer. We will expand the system a little bit, so we add some inlets on Campbell Avenue and on Linden a little bit, so we have a little bit better collection. We're going to look to see if we can incorporate some treatment if possible. That's going to be difficult given everything's pretty well developed over there and we really don't have a lot of options, but we'll look at it as we move into design. As far as the street goes, we would replace, it'd be pretty similar to what's there. There is one of the streets, I can't remember which one. Oh, Linden is 40 feet wide. We would reduce both of those. Both of them would be a 36-foot wide street, which is pretty standard for this type of roadway. We could consider adding sidewalk right now. As of today, that hasn't been anything that's been proposed. So right now, we don't have that included. So project costs, and I'll caveat the next part of this discussion a little bit. This is based on what we're seeing for current pricing. You'll hear more from me later in the meeting about current pricing. It's not pretty. Everything's up. I think everybody knows that. Construction in particular is very, very hard hit right now. So We reevaluated this based on bidding that we're seeing this spring. That's right now. Will that change over the next year? I think we can all hope so, but no guarantees. So if we were to bid this today, this is what we would expect, a total project cost of about $5.3 million. Just for reference, that's up about $1 million from the estimate that we did early in 2022, in like January. So the biggest component, of course, the street is a big one, but winning on this one is the sanitary sewer because of that trunk line, that 30-inch pipe. That is a big, big main. That's the biggest one we have in town. And so you're looking at about $1.8 million just to replace that, that big main. So as far as project costs and financing, so the project would be funded by a combination of sources. It'd be city utility funds we generate through utility billing, general tax levy. We also would be looking to get some outside funding assistance from Public Facilities Authority. That would provide us some low-interest loan and potentially some grant if we can qualify. If we're able to get some of that grant, that might help buy down some of the project costs. And then, of course, special assessments to the adjacent property owners. So those costs and how we split that up are done in accordance with the city's special assessment policy. And how that sort of shakes out on this project is the sewer and water, we assess 75% of the standard costs. And a standard water main and a standard sanitary sewer is considered to be an 8-inch main. The city assumes that remaining 25% plus any of that oversizing cost. So you heard me mention the 30-inch sewer main. Well, that's significantly more expensive than an 8-inch main. So we make that assessment based on an 8-inch main. The city picks up that cost for those oversized lines that are a more broad benefit to the community as a whole. Service laterals are 100% assessed, other than the fact that the city pays for any of the oversizing costs to connect to these larger mains. Street reconstruction, it's a 50-50 based on a standard street. A standard street is considered to be a 36-foot wide, 5-ton design. That's what we're proposing to build in this case, so it'd be 50% of the cost. The city assumes the remaining 50%, and if there was any oversizing or unusual costs. The city pays 100% of the costs related to the storm sewer. That comes out of the stormwater utility fund that we all pay on our utility bill every month. So this is how this all shakes down. I won't read it all. You can see the street cost there and how that splits out. Stormwater, 100% city. Sanitary sewer, you'll notice the city has a significant share, $1.4 million, almost $1.5 million of the $1.8 million in cost. So a pretty big chunk going to the sewer utility fund there. So in total, the city would be picking up about $3.7, $3.8 million, with about $1.5 million being assessed. So in total, we're looking at about 30% of the overall project cost being assessed, 30% of that $5.3 million. So you go back to that $1.5 million, how is that then allocated out to the properties? Again, we go back to the special assessment policy. Basically, in a nutshell, we break those costs out by front foot or by each and come up with a rate per foot or a rate per each that would be allocated and assessed to each of the properties. So sewer and water, that's allocated on a front footage basis. It's basically, if you have a rectangular lot, it's the width of your lot. If you have an irregular shaped lot or a pie shaped lot, we look at assigning that sort of an average width. And we take those costs, we add up all those footages, take the costs, divide it by the total footage and come up with a cost per foot. Service laterals, like I mentioned, are assessed on an each basis. Street's a little bit more complicated. So if you're a rectangular interior lot, it's the width of your lot abutting the street. That's pretty straightforward. Corner lots, if it's a side lot, meaning your long side of your lot, you're assessed 50% of the footage up to 150 feet, plus anything over 150 feet. So that's if you're on the long side of the lot. If the street improvement's on both the front and the long side, you would be assessed accordingly. So you'd get hit on both sides but there is a reduction on that side lot. So, all of that shakes down into this. This is the assessment rates that we'd be looking at right now based on everything I just went over. So, for street, we're looking at just under $100 a foot for a street assessment. Sanitary sewer would be about $76 a foot. I have that wrong up there. It's sanitary sewer front footage. It'd be $76 per foot. Sewer services are $3,500 each. The water main would be about $68 a foot, and water services are about $4,100 each. So a typical lot, just kind of generic, if you had sewer benefit and water benefit and street benefit from the project, if you were a 50-foot lot, right now we'd be looking at an assessment of about $20,000. 75-foot lot, $26,000. 100-foot, you're starting to get over the $30,000 mark. So terms and conditions, in case anybody doesn't know how a special assessment works, we would hold an assessment hearing sometime after we take bids next spring. It'd be probably in the April, maybe March timeframe of 2023. And then we'd levy those special assessments. They would hit the tax rolls in 2024. Typically, a project like this, we would assess over a 20-year term, so over 20 years. The interest rate will be dependent on what the city's able to secure the financing at. Your guess is as good as mine right now as far as where interest rates are heading. I mean, I think if it was today, it'd be pretty safe to say you'd be in that 5% plus category, maybe. We'll just have to wait and see where that goes. You can prepay all or a portion of a special assessment to either eliminate or reduce those interest charges. I want to make a point that we talked quite a bit at length in the Public Works Committee yesterday. I mean, I think council and staff are quite aware of the increasing costs of these projects. And so we're doing what we can to try to examine outside funding assistance that might be able to help subsidize or write down the special assessment costs. Like I mentioned, there is a chance that we could get some WIF grant through Public Facilities Authority. We won't know that until we get to the point of actually getting the bids, submitting the cost information down to Public Facilities Authority. We'll certainly look internally if there's anything else that the city can do to try to help mitigate some of those the impacts created by the special assessment. So hopefully, and I can't obviously guarantee anything, you hope that some of this stuff maybe starts to trend back downward a little bit as far as material prices and things like that. Fuel, all those things have a big impact on costs. So we'll just have to see what the next 8 to 10 months bring. As far as the schedule, we're here tonight in May with the public hearing. We would move into design if the council authorizes us to move ahead over the summer and fall here, trying to get towards a bidding this project maybe in the early winter of 23. We want to get out ahead of these given some of the supply chain issues. We'd have that assessment hearing, like I said, maybe March-ish, somewhere in there, and award a construction contract next spring and set ourselves up to be able to do construction in the summer of 23. There'd probably be a little bit of cleanup construction, like a final wear course on the street early in 24, in the spring of 24. So we may have some additional meetings. There could be one-on-one as needed. We'll be reaching out to people as we need to there. We may be sending out a property owner questionnaire to try to get some more information, so please return those if you have them. And in the meantime, if you have any special needs or considerations that we need to be aware of, please reach out to us. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Mayor.
So I know we have some residents here in the audience tonight. So has anyone got any questions about John's presentation? Questions or comments? Go ahead, ma'am.
If you have people that, some of those houses are, they're low income people.
Mm-hmm.
So how do they pay?
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can respond to that is if there is, and Heidi might have to help me out with this, if they're of a certain age and retired or military. Is there no military? I'm talking about the deferral policy.
Yeah, so in statute, I believe there's the military deferral, but we do have a city deferral program for anyone who's 65 years of age and older, or permanently disabled,
Yeah.
as per Social Security.
So if they meet certain criteria in the way of disability or age on a fixed income, and there's a list of criteria that we can get you,
Yep.
then there would be the option to potentially defer the assessment, which means you don't have to pay it now. It has to be paid like when the house sells. I don't know if the interest does not accrue.
Actually, ours doesn't accrue interest. We just hold it stagnant until that assessment becomes active. At that point, then it starts accruing interest,
Do
so.
you have an income
Yes.
guideline?
Yes, and in fact, later on the agenda this evening, we're approving some adjustments to that. We're proposing to follow the HUD 80% median income limit guidelines. So I can get you some more information on that if you're interested.
Yeah, it's for other people.
Sure.
Sure, if you get a hold of either Heidi or myself, or stop in at City Hall, we can get you that information.
And then if a person's handicapped, they have to driveway has to be kept open.
Yeah, we take, those are the kinds of things that I'm asking for in terms of if those needs are out there, the sooner I know about them, the better. I mean, we certainly have to contemplate that as we do construction and make provisions to allow for access and just coordinate it. And as long as we know about it, we generally can contend with it.
And going back to the sidewalk, were they thinking of doing the sidewalk like on one
Right.
side of the building, or?
As it stands right now, no, but that's part of the process. If there was a strong desire by not only the residents and a willingness from the city council, I mean, it's something that could be considered. Keep in mind, sidewalk generally does come with some level of special assessment with that. So the city pays a portion, but so do the property owners. So,
Further questions, folks? Kelsey, for the record, I believe we had at least one letter that we should
Yeah.
enter into the minutes.
Mayor and council should have received, I think via email, we sent this out from Terrell McDougal at 1140 Campbell Avenue, just raising some concern about potential costs of those assessments.
Class of 71.
That's old.
Oh, heck no.
Any further questions or comments? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I would turn it over for a motion from
Public
Madeline,
Works.
from Public Works.
Public Works is giving consideration to Resolution 2022-0510C to authorize preparation of plans and specifications for proposed street and utility improvements to Campbell Avenue and Linden Lane. We move to authorize those.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay. The motion has been made and seconded to adopt a resolution authorizing preparation of plans and specs for Campbell and Linden Lane. Discussion on the motion.
I guess one question for Mr. Pratt. In there you mentioned about lining those pipes rather than replacing them. What's the lifetime of, or what's the lifespan of those?
It's very good. I mean,
Is it?
It's
Okay.
arguably, I don't know if I could go as far as say as good as a brand new PVC pipe, but it's very, very good.
Gotcha.
Probably 80 years plus.
Oh.
We just don't go to it. It's more expensive to do it, but it makes sense in certain cases where we can't get into.
So it is a
the
permanent
back.
fix rather than just
Yeah,
abandoning?
it's very permanent.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
All right, any further questions from the council?
One question I have is, getting back to that, for the people that are on a fixed income. So let's say they have a 100-foot lot and it's 32 grand. I'm making that number up. Is that, we're not charging interest on that, right? We're just filing a lien on their property for 32 grand, and if they ever sell it, then they just pay back the principal?
Yeah, so the way the deferral is written and works is anyone who qualifies is someone who's 65 years of age or older or is permanently disabled as determined by Social Security Administration, and then they have to be within certain income limitations. And if they fall within those limitations, they apply each year to have their assessment deferred. And so each year they go through this application process, and we determine whether or not they of where they qualify. And then, yes, their assessment is deferred for another year. It's deferred for another year up until the point where the homeowner or the property owner is no longer the homestead, that property is no longer their homestead. The property is sold, the death of the owner, or there's no more hardship that is determined to exist. So those are kind of the termination statuses, of the deferral status. And at that point, then the assessment would be activated under the original terms of the assessment. So if this was a 20-year assessment at, say, just for instance, 5% interest, it would then go on the tax rolls the following year for the first year of 20 years at that 5% interest.
But no interest up until the time it's activated,
Correct.
Does that answer your question, Aaron?
Yep, thank you.
Any further questions? Go ahead, Jamie.
So the individual that wrote in has an unusual situation in that they have a 250-foot wide lot, which is
Mayor and Council, I actually looked at that because I was kind of shocked too, because I'm like, I don't remember. I looked and based on what I could see, it is wide, it's 150 foot wide, but not 250, unless I'm missing something, but that's what I could see.
Further questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you for coming, folks. Is there anyone else in the audience that has an item they would like adjusted? Carol?
Public hearing
Okay,
on item C.
that's the next item anyway. Was it?
It was before D, but
You know what?
That's-
I thought you were here for the street project. I'm sorry. I miss you, though. So at this time, I'll call to order a public hearing to receive public comments for the proposed improvement of curb gutter, concrete approaches, and sidewalks for the year 2022. And can I call on Sean? Sean, go ahead, please.
Mayor and council, this is the same process as what we've done in years past. We've marked the curb and gutter that need to be removed for either trip hazards on sidewalks or drainage issues for curb and gutter. The street supervisor goes out and marks these, and with our concrete contractor and our bituminous contractor, we put the prices together, and with our assessment policy, we follow that for what the homeowner's cost is and what the city pays.
Carol, did you have a question or a comment?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you come up here.
Well, I'm the ghost of sidewalk assessment past. So I have property at 215 Frazee, and there's a chunk of concrete missing. But this sidewalk and that concrete is like less than 10 years old, and I'm still paying for the sidewalk and the concrete on that street. And I don't know, I feel it's not really about the money, it's about the principle of it. I don't think I should be paying for faulty concrete work. It was, the project was kind of a mess anyway, but,
So, Sean, is this something you could go take a look at it over at Carol's property?
Yes, I can. What we have down is 6 foot of curb and gutter, not sidewalk.
well, it's
Yeah.
the curb and gutter,
Yeah.
but there's a chunk of the curb missing. And it's on a corner, a very busy corner that plows go across. I mean, I have a shovel, my little rusty shovel didn't do that, and, I have a push lawnmower, so I know I didn't do it with my lawnmower. So I don't know, I mean, I don't wanna pay for concrete. I'm already paying for it, so it's like.
So Kelsey, can we proceed with adopting the proposed improvements without Carol's in there?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, it sounds like it needs to be repaired either way. I just want to remind, the step that we're taking tonight is basically ordering the improvement. We will still have an assessment hearing
Okay.
that, Sean could look at it, and if there's any reason why we want to change the assessment, we can take up that matter at the next step 2.
Sounds good. Carol, did you hear that?
I just don't want it to be any more money.
Yeah.
If he comes and says, oh, the concrete prices have risen. I just want it for the record that I just,
So
I
Sean, do
know
you,
what he's talking about, but I feel like I've already paid for that and I'm paying above and beyond for that.
so do you want her to call you when you could set up a time to go over there?
Mayor, I will get her phone number.
Okay.
And I will be in contact.
Okay, perfect. Is there anyone else in the audience that has any comments regarding the proposed improvements to the curb gutter, concrete approaches, and sidewalks? Hearing none, do we have any letters or anything that came in? Sean? Okay. Hearing none, that public hearing is closed then, and I would entertain a motion.
Public Works moves to give consideration to Resolution 2022-0510B, ordering the improvement of curb gutter, concrete approaches, and sidewalks for 2022.
Second.
And it's so moved.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the proposed improvements of the curb gutter, concrete approaches, and sidewalks for 2022. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I believe we are at the Community Development Committee agenda. Dan?
Item A is consideration to a resolution 2022-0510D, approving a variance to allow a home with less than 412 roof pitch at 289 Long Lake Lane. Planning Commission reviewed this, recommends approving the variance. CDC reviewed it last night, recommends approving the variance, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a variance at 289 Long Lake Road for a roof improvement, which is less than a 412 pitch. Discussion?
Yeah, this is basically on our ordinance, anything less than 412 needs to, or we can't have those, or they're not allowed, correct, Larry? And we will be looking at that through the Planning Commission process sometime later this summer to kind of revamp some of those ordinances that are on the books.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item B is consideration to a request from Broadway Welding authorizing a one-year extension to a non-conforming use permit to allow a 35,000 square foot addition to an existing industrial building with a 17-foot sidewall or side yard setback, a variance from the airport zoning requirement to allow a 110,500 square foot building on a 5.56 acre lot in land use safety zone B of the airport, and a variance to allow paving of 71 parking spaces for a 110,500 square foot manufacturing facility at 1090 Legion Road to May 14th, 2023. Planning Commission reviewed it, recommends approving it. CDC reviewed it last night and recommends approving this extension, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve an extension until May 14th, 2023 for Broadway Welding. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item C is consideration to a proposal from RDG for a pavilion and Westlake Drive projects. I will let Kelsey or Larry will take it.
RDG has provided a scope of services to assist with master planning for the city park and pavilion area, the arena area, and Westlake Drive improvements in between those two locations. And basically, they've outlined three major tasks: the pavilion programming, city park and arena master planning, and Westlake Drive improvements. The total cost that they're listing for those services is $78,800.
Okay.
All right, so the CDC reviewed consideration of the proposal from RDG for the pavilion and Westlake Drive projects. Recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to engage RDG for a total fee of $78,800 to do some additional work on some of the long-range plans on the pavilion in the park, Westlake Drive, and some of the fairground proposed changes. Any further, anything else to add, Kelsey, or? Not really?
Not really.
Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead.
So just so I'm clear, and I think everyone understands who's listening, this is for them to do work to start looking and studying and determining different options.
Yes.
This is no way a step into making decisions, correct?
No, this is to have public meetings and start putting together ideas for the council to consider. So they will develop a master plan based on the public input that they receive. They will hold public meetings to gain that input and also to present their findings to the public.
Okay.
And
So
then they
just-
will also put together some cost estimates.
So just, Larry, for everybody's benefit, we had RDG do a large, major study on this whole area. I don't remember what year it was, but now.
Me either.
Well, then I won't ask you what year it was. But now they're gonna get focused in more specifically on these areas, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. I asked Kelsey today if this money could be folded back in. Let's say we do a project in the pavilion, if we can fold some or all of this money back into the project cost. And he thought maybe that would be possible, so there is a chance that we can recoup this upfront money at some point when if some of this development occurs. So with that, is there further questions?
I don't have any questions, but yeah, it is a lot of money, but I think both kind of the bookends here of Westlake Drive are that important that we do need to take a little bit of time to have public input, some options out there, just kind of laid out there because, you know, what was it, 50, 60 years ago when the city council put the beach in, you know, that was kind of controversial, and I think we need to take that same kind of approach and think through all the possibilities here for the next 100 years.
Okay.
I got a question. So we're paying a company $78,800 to tell us what to do with our city? Is that what this is?
I don't think it's quite that way, Aaron, but we're paying them $78,800 to engage the citizens and the business owners and the city council in discussions about what we want to see down there. So I don't think they're telling us what we should have.
But where's this company out of?
We've actually had them do at least two other projects for us. One was the downtown redevelopment when Highway was moved. And the other one was when they did this initial master plan for Westlake Drive. Is that correct, Larry?
That's correct. And they are out of Des Moines.
So we don't have enough people around here to kind of give us suggestions as far as how to do what needs to be done down there versus paying $78,000 to some company giving us ideas what to do?
I think what they do, though, is they facilitate that discussion so that property owners and residents of the city have a chance to voice their opinion, and they have a chance to voice it with people who don't necessarily have any preconceived ideas, or with staff people that they might think have preconceived ideas even if they don't. So they've done a very good job of working with very broad ideas, even sometimes conflicting ideas, to create consensus among the elected officials and the public as to how to move forward. So I think they have provided a valuable service.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Anything else, Dan?
Nope.
All right, we'll move to the Public Works Committee. Madeline?
Yes, item A, discussion regarding postponing the overlay of 270th Avenue as a result of the pending land sale. I don't know who to call on, John or Kelsey. John, you might just bring the council up to date on how that overlay of 270th Avenue was proposed.
Sure, Mayor and Council. So as part of the Lake Forest 8th Edition project, which is primarily the last phase of Marty Solomon's subdivision, we had to reconstruct a portion of 270th Avenue up along what's now the city park. And during part of that process, there were property owners further south on 270th that are in the city limits. Half of that road's in the city, half is out. And those property owners that are in the city had asked about potential improvements to 270th Avenue. And we looked at it. It is getting to be, the surface is getting into be in tough shape. At that time, we went along with the idea of we could do an overlay on it. It was a pretty minimal cost. Half of it would be picked up by the township, which they were willing to pay. Half goes to the city, and then the city's half is split up, 25% paid by the city, 75% paid by the property owners. Everybody was pretty happy with that idea. We didn't want to go any further with that, simply because I think there was a lot of uncertainty. Well, when are we going to be maybe going further down 270th Avenue? But nevertheless, we went along, we had an overlay. At this point, we're suggesting that we should maybe postpone that and pump the brakes a little bit on it. I had a discussion with Phil Hansen with Lakeview Township. He agreed, and the reason being is that the adjacent Rosentrader property is going up for sale on a land auction in early June. Well, my thinking is we would be maybe best served to not do anything with that road until we know what the outcome of that land sale is going to be. I mean, I think there's a chance that somebody would purchase that potentially for development reasons. And until we know that, maybe we want to wait. I'd hate to go overlay a road and then find out 2 years down the road we're ripping it up to put sewer and water in or do something like that. So we're not saying no, we shouldn't, just no, not right now. And I think depending on how long this drags out, we would probably reach out to those property owners with some sort of communication once we know a little bit more.
So, can I throw something in there? So, if the land that's up for auction sells and those developers have some plans, we may be able to proceed sooner than whatever. So we're just deferring it temporarily.
Yeah, I mean, if we find out that the land sells to somebody and they're not going to do anything for 5 years, 10 years, whatever it might be, we can certainly reconsider moving ahead with this and tack it on to some other project.
Do we know the developers who are purchasing it, or that's the?
We don't, it's going up for auction, so we have no idea who the owner could be. It's for sale, Wendy.
Can't even afford my own house.
All right, Madeline?
Public Works discussed this with John and moves to postpone the overlay on 270th Avenue.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to postpone the planned overlay on 270th Avenue as a result of the pending land sale. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item B, Westlake Drive Phase 2. I'll call on John for this to review the bids and we'll move after that.
Okay, well, Mayor and Council, I apologize, there's like 3 items here kind of in the mix. We had a very long discussion about Westlake Drive Phase 2 at Public Works, and I'll try to capture some of that. The short of it is we took bids last week, open bids. We received 2 bids, one from Haug in Detroit Lakes and one from Celine Brothers, both very tight bids, competitive. So the good news is the low bid was from Haug at about $3.4 million, which was about $100,000 below what my design estimate was. That's good news, but the not so good news is that's still significantly higher than what we were estimating and projecting last fall. So overall project cost is about 50% higher than we were looking at last fall. Now, not all of that is driven by inflation. A good portion of it is. There's also some additions to the project scope that resulted in additional project costs, decisions that were made along the way with replacing some additional force main and things like that, that added to that. So either way, we're sitting with a bid right now from Haug. When I take these project costs and plug them in to the overall project budget and start looking at the shares between the city, the county, and assessments, that's where things get a little bit more difficult. As a reminder, this is a joint project with Becker County. They did take action at their county board meeting last Tuesday and recommended award of the bid, and that would be contingent on our action here tonight. To get to it, the concern is certainly with the increase in cost, there's an increase with special assessments. And without me going through each and every one, the increases range from anywhere from 60% to over 100% increases in project costs. Just to maybe give you a little bit of a flavor, give you some rough ideas, if you had a 100-foot lot along there, which there aren't a lot of 100-foot lots in that area, but a 100-foot lot right now would be looking at about just under $33,000 would be the assessment. There's a lot of 40-foot sized lots. Those are in the category of about $21,000. What I should back up is, last fall when we had the public hearing, that same 40-foot lot was looking at about a $12,000 assessment. And, like I said, we're up to about 21. So there's going to be some level of sticker shock as far as the special assessments go. So in light of that, the staff recommendation is not, per usual, would be to take action on awarding the bid, but rather to hang tight on that and order the preparation of the assessment roll and set a special meeting for June 7th to have the special assessment hearing. And by doing that, we're bringing folks in, going to hear from them, see what their reaction is, how they feel about things, before we commit to awarding the bid. And that allows us a chance to field any objections that might get filed before we commit to doing the project. So we've asked Haug to provide an extension to their bid. They've agreed to extend their bid hold until June 15th, which will give us time to have a assessment hearing on June 7th, and we can either consider award at that June 7th meeting, or we could consider award at the city council meeting the following week on the 14th. So that was long, but it was still a summary, believe it or not.
Thanks, John. Public Works spent quite a bit of time on this yesterday afternoon and moves to give consideration to Resolution 2022-0510E, ordering the preparation of the assessment roll and setting an assessment hearing for June 7th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution ordering the preparation of the assessment roll and setting the assessment hearing for June 7th, 2022, and that will be at our next council meeting, correct?
No.
It'd be a special council
Special-
meeting.
It'll be a
Special
special
council
council
meeting?
meeting.
Okay. Questions, further discussion?
Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Matt.
Mr. Pratt, if we go down this road with the June 7th, is that something we could still do construction yet this year?
The short answer is yes. I mean, if we have the meeting and, presumably we reach resolution or things go well and we award it either the 7th or the 14th, yes, I think we can proceed. If we're unable to do that for a variety of reasons, whether there's objection or what have you, waiting to award this until July, for example, I think then no would be the answer, is we would not be able to get it done.
Okay. The other comment I have is for the rest of the council, I think we're on the right track of having that meeting, special meeting on the 7th. But also keep in mind that I think it's imperative that we do phase 1 and phase 2 in the same year. I mean, this is an ugly, ugly detour that you're affecting a third to half the lake to try and get around, and affecting all that traffic either out to the golf course on 59 or shoving it all on East Shore Drive. And to do that 2 summers in a row, I think is a bit unrealistic. So I think we need to do everything in our power with the constituents that live there to really try and wrap this up into 1 summer and get it done.
Sounds good to me, Matt. Further questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries.
Item 3 under that sub-item 3 under item B is consideration to a cooperative agreement for reconstruction of county state aid highway number 22 with Becker County. And they have approved this, correct, John? The county approved this, and so it's just up to us to approve it. So Public Works moves to consideration for that cooperative agreement of reconstruction.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to enter into a cooperative agreement for reconstruction of the segment of County Road 22 that we were just discussing previously. Discussion on the motion.
How does this impact our moving forward on the 7th or not moving forward?
We're referencing this agreement. I mean, you could approve it tonight, or you could approve it on the 7th. I think it doesn't matter, because we're not awarding the bid yet.
The agreement is just simply it's spelling out the terms and conditions and the cost split between the city and the county, right? And I don't see, I guess unless I'm missing anything that would change that between now and then. The agreement's structured similar to the other cooperative agreements that we've done with the county on Washington Avenue or Westlake Phase 1, for that matter. It was structured after those, so.
Right. I guess my only concern is if we find something, the wheels fall off the bus on June 7th and we decide not to go forward and we've got this agreement out there, how does that, it doesn't make any difference?
I think it would be better to wait until June 7th. The terms of the agreement arguably obligate us to proceed with the project. If we're not going to proceed with the project based upon the thing on June 7th, then I don't think we'd want to sign this agreement.
Well, that's good advice.
My only thought on that would be we've already incurred cost related to the project, so we would need to presumably go at it with another agreement. Okay.
Well, Ellen, with
So
the
where-
advice of the
what are we
city
doing?
attorney, I think we should postpone the
So properly, do I just withdraw the motion?
would you? And the
Yeah,
seconder?
That's what I'm saying.
Is that
Do I
okay?
withdraw?
And we'll just put this on the special agenda. Okay. Madeline?
Item C, consideration to resolution 2022-0510F. You guys are gonna get real tired of my voice. Approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids for the Long Pine Estates Phase 3 Street and Utility Improvement Project, and I give you John.
Voices. This is fairly routine. This would be the final phase of the Long Pine Estates project that we've been working on since the beginning of this year. We're at a point where we're asking the council to approve plans and authorize us to go for bids for the project. The only notable comment I have is, of course, the theme of the evening is, we expect prices to be up. Right now, the estimated special assessments, it's a per lot situation in this case, I think are up from, kind of just over 40,000, probably just over 50,000. We'll wait and see how they come in, but that's my read on the tea leaves right now. But we'll find out after we take bids.
Public Works moves to give consideration to resolution 2022-0510F, approving plans and specs and ordering advertisement for bids for the Long Pine Estates Phase 3.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the plans and specs for the Long Pines Estate Phase 3 Street and Utility Project. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item D, consideration to resolution 2022-0510G, approving the master partnership contract with MnDOT. And this is something that we do, every 2 years or whatever?
Every 3 to 5, I can't
Okay.
recall. I think it's every 3.
Every 3 years with MnDOT. Public Works moves to approve that master partnership contract.
There's a motion's been made and seconded to approve the master partnership contract with MnDOT. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Who seconded that? Okay, thank you.
Consideration to the request from Chris Hema regarding the ice cream truck. And you'll find that resolution in front of you. And I think I'll call on Kelsey to kind of review this, and then probably City Attorney Brent as well.
Mayor and council, maybe I'll just pose what the problem is. A copy of the Transit Merchant City Code is in your packet. And really what was the issue is Under 604.13, the prohibited practices, basically it's unlawful for any transient merchant, hawker, peddler, solicitor to display or sell merchandise on any right-of-way or public property. And the issue ends up being with the ice cream truck. That's very much where they do their business, is they are selling their frozen confections from their truck on right-of-way. So I'll let Charlie take it from there. He drafted basically an amendment to that ordinance that would carve out basically a specific exemption basically for an ice cream truck.
So at the Public Works Committee meeting yesterday, Mr. Hema appeared and noted that under the terms of the ordinance, he would not be able to operate the ice cream truck, at least in one of the manners which his predecessor had managed it or operated it. That ice cream truck, I understand, would sometimes be part of community events, and there was nothing wrong with that. They had their transient merchant license to do that, and it's part of a community event permit. That's not prohibited by the ordinance. But the driving around through the neighborhoods or wherever and selling product from the street not as part of a community event would be prohibited by the terms of the existing ordinance. And so I was tasked with coming up with some modifications to the existing ordinance, which, if the council approves, would allow that license issued to Mr. Hema on the ice cream truck, would allow him to be able to display and sell and distribute product from the public right away. So in the document that's in front of you, the changes to 60401 are just simply some language that says except as specifically allowed. I mean, most of that language is already there, but we're making an exception to that. And the same thing is essentially true with the changes to 60413. We just added in except as otherwise specifically allowed herein. The substantive changes to the ordinance are in 60414, which is entirely new, and 60415, which simply makes the entire transient merchant license ordinance also enforceable through our administrative penalties ordinance. So that's just kind of a cleanup provision. We've been doing that in general with a lot of our non-traffic ordinances. And so we're recommending, because we're already proposing to make changes to this, that we make that change as well. So while 60415 here is substantive, it conforms to basically what we've been doing in a lot of other ordinances. So the meat of the change is essentially I was tasked with coming up with a relatively narrow exception to the prohibition. And so the language, as you can see before you, essentially would be to allow a transient merchant license to be issued to transient merchants and hawkers. I always love that word, but a hawker sells edible products as opposed to a solicitor who sells non-edible products, I guess. So Mr. Hema and the ice cream truck would qualify as a hawker to utilize the public right-of-way, and that's the substantive change of the city streets and roadways, to display, sell, and deliver. And here, this is where it's fairly narrow, pre-manufactured, and pre-packaged. Okay, so we're not making ice cream. We don't have an ice cream machine. We're not whipping up a batch of homemade ice cream or anything. It's only pre-manufactured, pre-packaged products containing ice cream, frozen yogurt, and then I was advised today from some council people that they thought that frozen custard, and one particular council person thought that frozen flavored water was really important, so we made that permissible, as well as frozen juice. From a self-propelled vehicle temporarily parked in the portion of the street or roadway where parking is allowed. So you have to otherwise be allowed to park there. The temporary parking is for a limited duration, should be for no more than 15 minutes in any one location. Now again, you could adjust that. I just thought 15 minutes was reasonable. I think there was some discussion yesterday at the committee meeting of 15 minutes. And each parking location must be located at least 100 feet from the immediately preceding parking location where the sale and delivery product occurred. We don't want somebody to be able to move their truck, 2 feet and say now they're in a different location. So you gotta actually roll it down the street. And then we clean it up at the end by saying no manufacture, assembly, creation, mixing, preparation, or packaging of the product for display, sale, or delivery may occur in or near the vehicle during the period of time when the vehicle is parked on a city street or roadway. The goal there was to try to make this relatively narrow. If there's any questions about the proposal, I'd be happy to take them, or perhaps the committee members.
Any questions from the council? Anybody need any clarity?
Public Works moved, and I will explain that what I wanted was, the ability for them to sell rocket pops or popsicles. And Charlie deemed it should be frozen flavored water. The Public Works discussed this at length yesterday about how we could go about doing this. Some people think that you should be able to do a variance, but variances, as we found out yesterday, only apply to property,
Right.
correct?
We
And
can't
so-
vary a licensed
So you
ordinance.
can't vary a licensed ordinance, so that's why we had to direct Charlie to make this exception section. So Public Works moves to add section 604.14, public right-of-way exception, to ordinance number 491. This is the first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to give first reading to changes to our ordinance number, no, I've lost it here.
491.
Yep.
491.
If
Okay.
I might, just, it should include all of these changes, because I have
oh,
some
yes,
exceptions.
and
So I would ask
six
the motion to incorporate all
All
3 of
changes.
these changes in this proposed document, because it all kind of fits together.
Okay, your motion's
Yes.
there in the second?
Yep.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and first reading is given, and then do we intend to put this on the special council meeting for the 7th?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Item F, consideration to approving the summary of ordinance 489, amending city code section 204, administration, and section 802, parking regulations for publication purposes only. This requires 4/5 vote of the entire council. We approved and had second reading and approved the ordinance last time, but now we're doing this for the publication of it.
So the
we
ordinance,
move.
the ordinance has
Yes.
already been adopted.
Yes.
We just want to publish a shortened version of as a summary, right?
Right, we're moving to approve the summary.
Okay. And is there a second?
Second.
Was there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to approve the summary of ordinance 489, amending city code section 204. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think that gives us the 4/5 vote, right? Okay, thank you.
Item G is consideration to resolution 2022-0510H, designating permit required parking zones. And I will call on Kelsey to tell us about that. You may have looked in the packet and seen where those permitted parking areas are going to be.
Yes, Mayor and Council, so this is kind of the meat and potatoes of that ordinance change to basically allow the parking by permit. The resolution itself basically lays out where those areas are at. There is a map attached to the resolution. It might be easiest to follow on that. Basically, there's 2 areas that would require at all times parking by permit. That would be a portion of Summit Avenue near Zorba's. There would be Oak Street, which is by the hospital. And then the third area would be parking by permit only during 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. on school days. And basically, this is the area around the high school. It includes basically the north, east, and west side, along with the residential neighborhood to the west of it for a block. The resolution also spells out basically the qualifications for how to obtain a permit. Basically, it has to be a owner or a tenant of someone who lives adjacent to that area that owns the vehicle, provide proof of ownership, is basically eligible then to get a permit. At this time, we talked a little bit about the resolution allows for establishing a parking permit fee, but at this time, I guess the council is electing not to impose a fee.
Thank you.
Do you want me to just go ahead? I thought you were gonna ask for questions. All right, Public Works reviewed the parking zones and moves to accept Resolution 2022-051-0H, designating permit required parking zones.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution designated permit required parking zones. Discussion?
I've got a question. I know a couple months ago we talked about parking isn't a big issue in certain neighborhoods, but it seems like we're addressing parking as an issue in certain neighborhoods now. I can see around the school, but, you know, and there is traffic there and kids are parking off campus for one reason or another because they just don't want to park in a parking lot. But down here by Zorba's, I know that parking's an issue there, but why are we singling out certain locations in town where parking is an issue, but not in other areas, so. How do we go about adding on to these parking zones in the future or taking off? How do we review this process?
Mayor and council, one way I'd respond to that is those were existing areas that were approved by previous councils, so this would just basically ratify previous actions that were done by council. The ordinance allows changes to be made, either subtraction or addition by resolution.
Those were already designated spots, Dan.
So I know that a little of the history, the one on Summit, Dan, was there was a particular owner there that had a fourplex, I think, and was concerned because they needed some off-street parking, and when there was a lot of activity down in Westlake Drive or at the restaurant, oftentimes there wasn't a parking spot available adjacent to the fourplex, so that's the history of it, but doesn't mean it has to stay that way.
I just want to keep some of the parking in other areas of town, like down by Long Bridge area, keep that in the forefront of people's thoughts because it is a traffic issue, and if we could review that. I know that the Planning Commission had referenced that they wanted to have some sort of review of that area when we did that variance a couple months ago.
So is that something you'd like to see the council take a look at, Dan?
Yeah, I would like to see something done just in that whole area, just kind of generally take a look at where parking should be, where it shouldn't maybe be.
So what committee would you say would want to have that assigned to?
I would suggest Public Works, put it on their next month's agenda.
Okay, thank you. Further comments or questions? Go ahead, Matt.
I guess I'm going to vote no on this. I think it's a slippery slope when we're trying to honor what neighborhood gets it and what doesn't. I think that this is going to lead to problems down the future. I think the community spoke and said everybody wants a community high school. We want neighborhood spots. This is what we got. This is the outcome of it. I think that this leads into a slippery slope, and I just don't like it.
You could come over to my house about 3:30 on a school day and we could talk about it.
Well,
Can I
there's
add
a lot of
on to your
parking spots in
response?
town. Just like, there's a lot of spots in town where there's no parking because of turn lanes or everything else. I mean, it's not a given that we have to have guaranteed reserved spots in this public street.
No, I was kind of being
I know
facetious.
you
there,
were.
sorry.
The only thing I can say is, Matt, I know where you live. The school's been there for years. You know what I'm saying? It's like me, when I bought my house, there's an airport next to it. That'd be like me complaining because there's airport noise.
We could ask to have it
Okay,
moved.
well, I don't think that's gonna happen now. But so I kinda agree with Matt, but then again too, you know, if it's an issue, it's an issue, so.
Yeah. There really wasn't a problem because we used to have the signs there in these same areas Aaron. And then when the school went under construction the last couple of years,
Yep.
all the kids and the construction workers started moving out into the neighborhood areas, and it just sort of carried
Right.
over. And I think once we enforce this type of thing, I think there's not gonna be any problem anymore. The kids will park where they're supposed to. And
Right.
So, anyway. But I hear both of your, comments. Wendy?
Can I just ask a question? So you mentioned parking spots. So this isn't a matter of me wanting to have parking spots in front of my house so much as a matter of traffic flow or what?
Well,
Or just
it's-
the change that occurred
it's a-
over the last couple of years?
It is a safety issue pulling off some of those side streets because the kids park right up to the, on both sides, and you have to kind of creep out and
Yep.
try not to get into a car
That's a good
accident.
thought.
So it's a safety issue, and there's other issues as well, but.
Yeah, it feels
Anyway.
more like a commercial area, I would say, rather than a neighborhood in some cases, and people object to that. I mean, they get tired of it. And there's been times when there's just so many people, it's kind of bumper to bumper, and their bumpers are hanging over people's driveway approaches and all that stuff.
That's what I was assuming. That's why I'm clarifying.
This
Thank
town,
you.
this town sucks for parking, if you ask me. There's a lot of issues with parking.
A lot of people want to be here.
Right.
So any further discussion? Otherwise, we call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Hey.
So I think we had 2 nays, is that correct? So the motion carries. Thank you.
Item H, consideration to a memo from the Public Works Director requesting the approval of the DLYHA summer ice contract. Public Works reviewed this and moves the approval of that summer ice contract.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the Detroit Lakes Youth Hockey Association, City of Detroit Lakes Summer Ice Contract. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I didn't.
Jamie did.
Thank you.
Item I, consideration to a memo from the Public Works Director requesting the approval of a fuel tank installation for $15,032.19. This is a non-budgeted item. Perhaps Sean would like to explain this fuel tank installation.
Mayor and council, what this is a double-walled tank, the concrete, and a fence to go around the fuel tank. We use that fuel tank to fuel up our mowers. The current one we have is a single wall, and it does leak. So in order for us to gain room, we moved it outside, requiring a double-walled tank. Technically, it was inside and should have required a double-walled tank to begin with. So we're just trying to do it the right way.
Public Works reviewed this and moves to approve the purchase of a fuel tank installation for $15,032.19.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the purchase of a new fuel tank for the Public Works Department in the amount of $15,032.19. Discussion?
Is this gonna be at the Public Works facility?
Parks.
This will be at the park shop.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item J, consideration to a memo from the Public Works Director requesting the purchase of a Landa VHG 4-30 pressure washer for $8,422. This is also a non-budgeted item. Sean, want to tell us what you need it for?
Mayor and council, again, this is a pressure washer. We currently do not have a pressure washer, so cleaning our equipment in the winter, getting the salt off, is problematic. This will, this piece of equipment will come out of Public Works budget. We have a small tool and equipment budget, so it will be coming out of our budget in that area. And this piece of equipment, if a new Public Works facility is built, this will be able to be moved to that facility.
Public Works reviewed this and moves to purchase a Landa VHG 4-30 pressure washer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the purchase of a new pressure washer for the Public Works Department. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Acceptance of the city engineer's monthly project status report. Do you want to fill us in on anything we haven't talked about tonight?
I can. I'll keep it short. Okay. Well, good news. Westlake Drive Phase 1, so the Legion to County Road 6 project that we've been at it for some time. We did get what we call a right-of-way certificate, which was really what we've been in pursuit of for years at this point. So I'm awaiting some final approvals from MnDOT central office down in the cities that would allow us to advance the project to bidding. Theoretically, that could come any day, so we could, the council's already authorized us to go to bid. So any point here, we could be bidding that project, and we're sort of on track to be able to get this thing started and finished this year, knock on wood. So, other than that, Westlake 2 we talked about tonight. There's going to be some work starting up out at the Berquist subdivision in terms of finishing some turf restoration and paving. Willow Homes and Frazee, I should mention, obviously everybody's seen the construction ramp up down there. They've got the sewer done and working on the water main. In general, they started the alley today too. I think they got one piece of storm sewer in. That is going to be a very slow go. Lots of buried stuff there. But in general, we're probably going to be that early to mid part of May down, or June down in this area, and then they'll have that wrapped up. They'll also be starting to see some activity down on Willow. Between Sherrill and Rossman, they're going to be working on putting the concrete driveways and sidewalks in. They've started some grading activity for that. Be working on that. And then the Rossman and Willow intersection is going to be closed starting sometime here next week. And as they get into the underground on that, I don't think they'll really progress east until school's out, but that will be the general direction of the activity there. Lake Forest, I mentioned, we've got a workhorse to finish up out there. We no longer have an overlay at this point to do. Highland Drive, plans are about 90% done, so I suspect here sometime within the next month we'll be able to get that project out for bid, working with the county on that. Long Pine Estates Phase 3, we talked about tonight, that's going to bid. The Becker County Museum and Parking Lot Project, we set a pre-con for that. Look for construction activity to start on that project early part of June, early to mid part of June, as soon as they get out of the current museum and get that facility demoed, we can start that project. That's really about it tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, John. That is it for Public Works.
Okay, so I think we need to actually make a motion to accept his report, though.
Oh, we probably do. So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the city engineer's monthly project status report. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Madeline. We'll move to the Finance Committee. Natalie?
So under Finance Committee, we have 7A, the consideration to the resolution for the deferred payment of special assessments. Heidi covered this a little bit earlier. I just want to give an update on what the proposed changes are.
Sure. Mayor and council, we did speak about this a little bit briefly earlier, but the changes that are being made to the special assessment deferral program that the city has, basically this program was put into place a while back, and the max income limits haven't changed since 2004, and so in order to keep up with what those probably should be for these days, I'm recommending that the council approve an updated policy which would tie the max income for special assessment deferrals to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, fiscal year income limits summary, based on their low 80% median family income limits for Becker County. That is a figure that they update on an annual basis, so I wouldn't come back to you necessarily every year with an update. I would just automatically update our application each year with those new max income numbers based on how HUD updates those figures for our community. And so other changes that I'm proposing that are made to the program are dropping some of the asset qualifications. In the past, we had some asset limitations that people needed to meet in order to qualify for the program. I'm proposing that we make it strictly based on these max income limits as defined by HUD. Make it kind of quick and simple, something that's fairly easy to administer and easy for folks to apply for. And so it would still be a program for those 65 years of age or older or permanently disabled as defined by Social Security Administration. And then folks again would have to apply each year by November 15th. And we certainly would send out applications to everyone who had been a part of the program in the past. Any people that would be, wanting an application for the next year would have to contact us. We wouldn't necessarily know who those folks might be, so people would have to reach out for those. But once they get kind of on our list, we'll contact them and keep up with them each year until there comes a time where they don't qualify for the program. So that is kind of my summary, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So thank you for that explanation earlier and just now.
Yeah.
The one question I didn't catch was who initiates this process? So how are citizens advised that it even exists? Is it by staff? Is it something that's sent out when you do the assessment hearings? But I'm just curious how many, we had the woman today saying she would have to sell her home, and I'm wondering who or how we reach out to that person to let them know that this is an option.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if our assessment.
Our assessment hearing notices that are mailed out.
Yeah.
There's a section in there that says about city council has elected or adopted a policy that allows for deferral for blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
So it's right in the notice.
Do we bold it so they notice it, or? I'm just
Yeah,
looking at, I know
right.
myself, I look at stuff and go,
And
well,
certainly,
dang,
I mean,
assessment.
at City Hall, we do get a lot of people that, will call and ask questions about assessments and certain things like that. And, if folks ever do call and have concerns about affordability and things like that, we certainly point them in those directions and any direction that we think they might benefit from, so, yes.
Further questions?
Just for the record, I'm not opposed to this, but just so it's on the record and everybody knows, the more we have of these, the more it sits on our back, and the more we gotta carry these costs until the projects are done. So just know that this is gonna be another liability the city carries. I do agree that this is a good thing, but come budget time, this is gonna sit on our backs for a while.
I don't think anybody should be taxed out of their home ever.
I don't disagree, but then it's, higher taxes for everybody then.
I have an addition to add to that. We did discuss this during finance and asked how many actual homes this applies to, and Heidi said anywhere in the number between 10 and 20.
Yeah, it's probably a
Throughout the
rough estimate, but I think it's probably only about maybe 20
I stand
that we
corrected.
have.
Thank you.
There's not a ton currently. Now that word's getting out, maybe there will be
I was
more.
just
I
gonna
don't
say
know,
that
but
might
But getting back to that,
yeah.
getting back to that, if they do go with the 32,000 deferral on a 150 lot, we file a lien on their property, right?
yes, so it is
right
still
there, we're protected
certified.
to get our money back when he or she dies or sells the property.
Don't disagree, but that could be 20 years down the road that we have carrying costs for that.
Right, but then again, I don't think you should ever be taxed out of a home. And some of these people can't afford it. I don't want them to lose their house because we're doing stuff to improve theirs.
Okay, two good points, well taken. Further discussion?
I guess it just kind of brings up the point that we do need to look at special assessments, because every time we get the engineer sitting a report out that says, hey, I'm under budget, but it was way, way more than it was in the past, I think it's just brings to the forefront that things are getting more expensive and we can't just depend on the same way we've done things for forever.
So, yeah, I think at some point, as a council and staff, we need to maybe take a look at our assessment policy and see what we want to work towards in the future. So at some future point, we should add it to our workload.
We are doing some work toward
Are you
that,
doing that? Okay.
already. Public Utilities is doing a rate study on the water utility fund this year. And so we are looking at potentially what sort of options could the utilities do in order to help support some more of those utility costs through rates rather than through assessments.
So Kelsey, at some point, you'll bring it back to the council with some of this information, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
One more
discussion?
thing, is there any way we can get a hold of our state, people down in Minneapolis and tell this is a problem? You know what I'm saying? These increased costs, these people are on fixed incomes, and some of these people are getting taxed out of their homes. You know, if it's happening here, it's gotta be happening in other smaller communities in Minnesota too.
Yeah, I would think they're probably pretty aware of it, and so.
It's a great point, though. Great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a motion yet, do we?
No.
Mayor and Council, I don't know if this is a good point on that. The PFA process that we go through, and we got a couple of motions coming up where we're actually doing the loan documents for Willow, Frazee, and Holmes. You know, that's kind of our process for getting any type of, low-interest loans or grants from the state. We have received some grants in the past, but it's kind of a double-edged sword in the fact that right now we're not qualifying for grants because our rates aren't high enough, because they have a calculation based upon a percentage of your median income they deem as what you should be able to afford for paying for rates. And that's despite all the rate increases we've had, so it's kind of hard to swallow that. So that's part of the equation, but good point, and that's why we go through this process on a lot of these projects, hoping that maybe we get some grant funds from the state, but.
Okay,
Okay, so now it's time for a motion.
I think it is.
So the Finance Committee did review and we did discuss the updates in following the HUD annual income limitations and such. So I move for the consideration to Resolution 2022-0510I, revising the program to defer payment for special assessments for senior citizens and retired disabled homeowners.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution that revises our deferment program for senior citizens and retired disabled homeowners as it pertains to special assessments. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Then jumping to item C, Finance did review the budget and rates that are in your packets. And with the minimal changes to those, we did move to approve the consideration to approving the DMRA budget and rates for the 2022-2023 season.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the Detroit Mountain Recreation Area budget and rates for 2022-2023. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
And then 7D and E are the resolutions in your packets that were handed out. And Heidi is going to give a update on these two items.
Yeah, so, these are, as Kelsey alluded to, the resolutions to, sorry, I lost my place, accept the offer from the Minnesota PFA, on loans for the Willow Holmes Frazee project. One of them is for the water fund for water revenue note in the amount of $2,021,184. Again, this is to fund water infrastructure related to the Willow Holmes Frazee project. That series number in the agenda is incorrect. It's actually 2022B. They kind of switched them on me as they were preparing those, our bond counsel. So that's item D. We did have these planned for. We knew that we were going to be paying back these, this debt, so this has been contemplated in our financing plans and such. E is the same thing, but for the sewer fund, so that's a sewer revenue note for, again, Willow Holmes Frazee. That's 2022A. and that is in the principal amount of $1,896,785. These are 20-year bonds, and the interest rate we locked in is 2.6%.
Okay.
Thank you. So with that, I move for the approval of consideration to resolution 2022-0510J, accepting the offer of the Minnesota Public Facilities Authority to purchase a general obligation water revenue note, Series 2022B, in the original aggregate principal amount of $2,021,184, providing for its issuance and authorizing the execution of a bond purchase and project loan agreement.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution regarding PFA Series 2022B. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Again, I will repeat the second one. Finance moves to approve the consideration to resolution 2022-0510K, accepting the offer of the Minnesota Public Facilities Authority to purchase a general obligation sewer revenue note, Series 2022A, in the original aggregate principal amount of $1,896,785, providing for its issuance and authorizing the execution of a bond purchase and project loan agreement.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution accepting the Minnesota PFA Authority Series 2022B. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, then we have the consideration for an LGA funding support increase. Kelsey.
Mayor and Council, the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities requested that cities pass resolutions in support of an LGA formula update and an additional appropriation. If you may recall, when we talked about during budget season, about how the city continues to lose local government aid because of various factors. So the formula change is really important to the city of Detroit Lakes, because instead of seeing, a 90,000 reduction every year in LGA, you would actually kind of reverse that decrease and actually gain a little bit. Status currently, the Senate tax bill does not include any type of LGH formula update or additional funding. The House bill does. The House bill does include LGA formula update, not the full 90 million. Can't remember, I think it's like 40 million, but it's not the full 90 million. But again, the main thing is that formula change is really important for the city of Detroit Lakes. So I guess it doesn't hurt to pass the resolution. We can send it to St. Paul.
Okay, thank
So
you.
Finance moves to the consideration to resolution 2022-0510L, supporting an increase in LGA funding.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution requesting from the legislature to support an increase in LGA funding. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Natalie?
That's it, Your Honor.
So we'll go to the public safety. Dan?
Thank you, Matt. We have one item, which is the purchase of a 2011 Ford F-350 from the Minnesota DNR for our fire department. Public Safety Committee reviewed this, recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to purchase a 2011 Ford pickup from the DNR for the fire department. Discussion?
Is it gonna stay yellow?
Is it yellow?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Do we got to vote on the color?
No, you don't.
Nothing further, Dan, right?
Nothing.
Okay. Liquor gambling control, Matt?
Item 9A, Your Honor, is consideration of the issuance of a temporary expansion permit for Hub 41. This was discussed at the Liquor and Gambling Control with a positive recommendation, so I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a temporary expansion permit for Hub 41. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I think we took. the
Mayor,
other
one last thing,
Yeah,
just
go
for
ahead.
everybody's
Yeah.
information. The temporary permit, expansion permit will not be out front of of Roasted this year. So that dock will not be on Washington, that will be removed. They've decided not to apply. So just for everybody's information.
Okay, there is one item on the Public Utilities Commission, and I would call on Madeline.
Yes, The Public Utilities Commission requests approval of an updated Schedule A to the S1 Power Sale Agreement with Missouri River Energy Services. I know you're all really interested at this time of night to know what that means, but it has become necessary to do it because we're adding that substation, that south substation. So the power sale agreement just lists the different ways we get power through Missouri River Energy Services. And so we're adding substation, the south substation, to that, a sale agreement.
Well stated. So, is that a motion?
It is a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the update to Schedule A of the S1 Power Sale Agreement with Missouri River Energy Services. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I don't have a recommendation at this time for the Planning Commission. We're losing Marcus Locker, and apparently Marcus is moving away, unfortunately. I do have a good candidate, though, but if the council has any other people they'd like to suggest, that would be greatly appreciated. Same with the DL Community Foundation. I don't have anybody in mind yet for that position, but we'll get there. Couple informational things. The candidate election filing opens August 2nd through August 16th, and that's for city council people as well. The joint governance meeting dates are there for the balance of the year, and the council meeting dates are there for the rest of the year. And don't forget, on June 7th, we're going to have a special city council meeting, so that's not too far off. Anything else from city staff tonight? Aaron, anything more?
I'm good, Your Honor.
All right, Wendy?
Nothing for me.
Dan?
Nope.
Madeline?
Nothing tonight.
Natalie?
All good.
Jamie?
Yeah, in regard to candidate election filing.
Yes, I forgot about that.
My position is open for reelection this year, and I will not be running. So we want to encourage people in Ward 2 to think about running, and they can contact me. My contact information is on the city website, or any other council member to find out what it's like and what you need to do to run. And Glory too. Ward 2. Yep. And is that new? It's the new boundaries, right?
That's
New
correct.
boundaries, yeah. So it's a new district. People are eligible to run now that would not have been in the past.
That's a good point.
At least in that ward, right? They might have been in a different ward, though.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Thank you for that, Jamie, appreciate it. Dan, anything else?
Nothing, Your Honor.
The business of this council has come to a conclusion. The meeting's adjourned.